Hi, my name is Daniel Ulbricht. I'm a principal dancer at the New York City Ballet and also the director of programming here at Manhattan Youth Ballet. Today, I'm going to go ahead and deconstruct an Seconde turn. I was taught from a very classical style and then adapted that when I moved to New York. So basically, the takeoff of this turn, there's two different ways. You can do a pirouette, which goes into the Seconde, and I prefer to go straight into the Seconde from our fourth position. Whether you take off from a double bent knee or a straight leg, both preparations will work from that position. And just to show you the difference, the first one would be a double pirouette to a plie Seconde, or the second one, which we'll be just deconstructing a little bit, would be an Seconde right away into that position. When you take off for both of these preparations from fourth position, the most important thing that I look for is that our weight is over our front leg. Nose over toes, that's the easiest way for me to remember that. My axis, as I take off, will continue to stay over my standing leg, and I'm showing you on the angle here so you can just see where my arms are as well. The most common thing that I see when people go to this Seconde, either from the pirouette or the plie Seconde, is that they get stuck on their heel and they go away from the foot. And it would look something like this. I'm going to face towards you. They would go Seconde and fall. And so what we really want to start to do is honor that side here. So I'm thinking shoulder, hip, and toe are all maintaining that line. So facing you all, I want to keep that line into that position so I can stay on that. Whether it's one Seconde or many Secondes like we see in codas, it's about keeping the standing leg. Once we finish our series of Seconde turns, whether straight Seconde turns or pirouettes in the middle of those, we want to come back and collect ourselves over on that same side, obviously on releve, and we land and figure that same line into the body with the chest up and really sticking the landing into that. Think the way a gymnast would stick their landing at the very end of a tumbling pass or routine. We want to be able to show that same thing as a dancer. So to show you this in these pieces, I'll go one more time here. We're going to bring our left arm to initiate this with our back foot pushing off the ground. So that's really the most important action. You can also see my eyes are really targeting where I'm looking at. So of course we call that a spot. The other word I'm going to use today is also energy, which means I'm really concentrating my focus on specific elements into my turn. So when I use this energy or focus, I really want to be finding where my eyes are and figuring out where all my pieces are. Another common mistake is that our arms get behind us or even drop down. And so one visual you can think about is looking at an equal sign. I want that to be a nice line into the body. So when we near the end of the pull-in, one of the most important things we want to do is bring the toe directly into the standing leg. What tends to happen is we like to bring the standing leg into the passe leg, which is sort of a recipe for tipping over from the top. So when I do my Seconde turn, I want to make sure my weight's over my toe, collecting the toe back to this side. And the second half of this is you want to keep the axis or the line of this, and I really want to just put my toes down and my hands. Notice my chest does not drop forward or to the side into that position. And what most people forget is you actually have to be on balance even when you land. So let's take a look. 4 Secondes en face with a pull-in straight towards you. I'm going to show you the same thing on the angle so you can see where my second arm is. In theory, when I do an Seconde turn, I really only need my second arm. This arm is to kind of brace or balance. Think the way a tightrope walker would have a pole. I want these arms to always stay in front of me with my eyes finding that focus. So when doing Seconde turns, I think one of the most important things is to have what I call a turn plan. What that means is if you have a phrase of 16 counts to do your Seconde turns, you want to know what you're going for. In other words, I could be doing 3 Secondes and then an Seconde up, 3 Secondes and another one up, and a pull-in. That would be my turn plan once I hear that music for a coda, for instance. If you go into a turn without a turn plan, it literally looks like you're getting lost in the middle of your turns. So besides your takeoff, you want to know what you're doing and when you're doing it in the series of that. And most importantly, when to pull in and to finish on the music. That's one of the most exciting things is when we see the finish of the pirouette with that beautiful note that happens usually within the score. It shows the audience, again, you're in control, you've accomplished this amazing feat, and more importantly, you've executed to the best of your ability. One of the most important lessons I actually teach many young dancers is what balance is. Balance for me is focus plus placement. So you can have the world's best focus, but our position isn't really together. You can also have the world's best position or placement and your focus be all over the place. And I found that when you put those two together, you're able to actually stabilize yourself. Now there's one more thing I'm going to add to a pirouette, which is rhythm. So you have focus, plus placement plus rhythm. Those three components I find in any turn that I watch in professional classes all the time here, and especially at my younger dancers. As a dancer, you observe a lot. So you can start to see if something is just off, that 1 millimeter of that shoulder being off could be affecting your Alsacon turn or any other turn. So what you want to do is make sure it's there. You want to make sure everything is there. And notice when I'm doing this passe flat, if I start to look all over, my balance will shift. So I'm going to lock my eyes in onto a target. I'm going to find my position. And when I add that pirouette, the rhythm is actually driven by my spot. And for most of us, a spot is really sort of the beginning of your turn. Think about if someone striking a match. It's that level of going quick to slow. We never want to go slow to quick. A slow to quick turn would look something like this. And my rhythm would be tremendously off. But when I start my turn, I want to think about it as actually think about like a catapult, like on an aircraft carrier. There's an energy that takes off and then it finally goes. So I have it a little bit faster. I like to go fast to slow, never slow to fast. It'll actually pull the body around if my eyes lead the turn, instead of my eyes being left behind and my body trying to do the rest. Most people get scared of Alsacon turns because they don't find also front. So if I'm looking at you all and my turns start to do this, under rotate or over rotate, they end up changing every Alsacon turn. And for my audience here, and also for where I am as a dancer, I want always to be finding front. Front for my takeoff, front for my Alsacon, front for my pull-in, and of course, front for my landing. So, like any turn, it's very easy to make it hard, and it's hard to make it look easy. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found some insightful information on how to do Alsacons. You'll be practicing these for the rest of your career.